Today's agenda and the things that I have are kind of slim pickings today, but I did have a demonstration of the new serials module, and I can show that to you, at least parts of it, so that you can see what we're looking at in version 5.20. The news from the blind this week is pretty brief. The ALA midwinter meeting is starting this weekend, and Patrick will be out there in Denver demonstrating and talking to people. And other than that, the programmers continue slugging along and getting new and enhanced features as well as fixes done. I scanned the release notes again this morning, and Jane told me that there would be a new version of the release notes either later today or tomorrow. And once those are available, I'll just let you know, because last week I sent out the links so that you could go and look at them yourself. But there were a few things that I saw in the release notes that I thought I would share with you so that you'd have an idea of what is coming in the next version. The first one is that there are enhancements to the facets. The one that you need to be quite aware of is that facets will now use a decade range instead of individual years. And part of the reason that they went to this is because of what they're calling incomplete dates, or what we would call open entries. So I guess that that's something that you need to be aware of if you have bibliographic instruction classes that use handouts to show how to use the different things. You'll need to be aware that the limiting by date is going to be in terms of dates. The second one is a new index that's available in the InfoMart. One of the indexes, one of the facets that has been chosen for that database is the publisher. And the publisher facet was not working correctly. It was only pulling out one word from the publisher. So there's been a new index that's designed for faceting. You can use publisher-display : publisher in the facet setup, and you'll be able to have a facet that will also collect all like publishers together. So if someone is looking for a specific vendor, they'll be able to find it if you choose to use that particular facet. Oh, and the third one I notice now is duplicative of the first one, but there is another one. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Okay, there's a decade range one. Okay. Okay, I thought that I had seen 3, but I guess that there were just 2. So you can ignore the third point. I also noticed, and you maybe saw when I had the screen up, the dates should not be out of numerical sequence. They should be by decade. So it'd be like 1950 through 1959, 1960 through 1969. Most all of the, even for open entries, there's usually a starting date, and that starting date will determine where the facet will pick up and show that date. So the dates will be Janelle, I see that you said you have trouble seeing my desktop. Can you see it now? Oh, nobody can probably see it because I didn't have my screen sharing on. I'm sorry about that. Is this better now that I turned on screen sharing? Okay. Okay, so we're down here in our facets. The next bit of information that I saw in the release notes is that they've started work on offline circ. The notes that came with it said that it was in testing. And just a reminder that the offline circ that is being included is, it isn't the same as the previous version of offline circ that we use, in that you don't, there's not going to be the capability to download patrons and and take care of fines. So I don't have a description of that particular feature quite yet, but I thought you'd like to know that that version 5.20 will include a new offline circ. This morning I saw a demonstration of the new serials module, and if you would like, I can show you what I saw. I cannot explain how it all works together yet. Jane is working on the documentation, and once that's there, I'll be able to identify a little bit better how a demonstration should really look. But are you interested in seeing what it looks like? I'm not sure how many of you are currently using serials. Okay, there is a yes, please. Okay, I'm going to switch my screen over to Bevation, and let me first start from going home on this one. There are some wording changes, and in this case, it's instead of just serials, it's the serials home. One of the biggest differences that I saw immediately is that when you go to the serials home and click on this, you don't have to do a search for your journal titles anymore. Anything that is in the serials area will automatically be displayed for you. The list here is in alphabetical order, and it always bothers me that the thes are interfiled with the. But one thing that was pointed out is that all of these columns are now sortable. So if you are looking for a specific title and it's at the end of the alphabet, you can sort in up and down. Not sure why you'd want to order by ISSN, but that's also possible. And you can have multiple subscriptions for a single title that's carried in the records, and in this one you can also sort. The display that you see here will tell you your title, and you'll notice over in the actions columns you can receive from this particular screen. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit to Smithsonian and show you what the actual subscription record itself looks for. There is always going to be, your library is going to be identified either in terms of what you call your library in your groups and library setting, or the branches that you may have. So if you have branches at your library and you have individual subscriptions, you'll be able to identify each subscription on one record. So any issues that arrive can be checked in on the same basic record. Again, you'll see an expiration date on this one that tells me that that's the I'm not sure what that tells me. I would interpret that to mean that's the expiration date of the particular journal. And as you see here, it's possible to have two different expiration dates. There again is another button for receiving. And to the right of the subscriptions panel is a panel that identifies the prediction for the next issues that are coming. Okay, so it's kind of all compact and it all sort of works together. The publication information and the enumeration and chronology are managed through this top window. And pretty much you can set up anything, any pattern that you want to set up. Let me see. No. Okay, so there are some that are preset. This particular record, there was some demonstrating and changing of it. So Bill told us or showed us how we can add in a special issue or something, supplement or something else that comes as part of the subscription, so that it would appear in the issues table so that you would see what were coming and how many were expected. And as you can see, for this one title, we can have differing enumeration for these. In the bottom area, we can see what our next issue date is going to be, and et cetera. Following that, we can identify our enumeration counters. And these are the pieces that I'm not sure how they're all put together yet, so I'm just demonstrating them. And you can also have a list of the predictions for the next multiple years. So the information that I think is going to work out well is once your subscription records are converted, and they will do that as part of the migration to version 5.20, what you'll be able to do basically for most day-to-day operations is go to the serials home, find the title, and then click on receive, so that your receipts can be done pretty quickly and pretty easily. There is a claims feature that is included with the serials module. Again, it's triggered by the branch, and the vendor account that we would add in here is a vendor account that is in acquisitions. So this Amazon account 1 is linked into the acquisitions module, so that it makes it easy to create purchase orders and purchase order lines from within the serials area, the serials module. It will pull up whatever you have in your acquisitions for your different vendors. I'm going to actually choose something else. You then have the option of entering the email address that you would use for sending claims. And once you save this record, you can send it either via email by clicking the button at the bottom, or you can print the claim form if you want. You can choose also to have the issues that you're claiming marked. And if they're claimed marked, what it would do is change the status from either received or expected or whatever it is, so that you will see claimed. So the whole claiming piece is all built in to the serials module now. And as those of you who tried to use it in previous versions of LAK know that that was not working. And in fact, you had to have a specific set of vendor records that were not in the acquisitions area. So So this is kind of a real brief preview of what is in here. Let me ask if there's any, are there any questions about this? I don't know specifically the answer to that about EDI being in serials, but the fact that it's linked into acquisitions would lead me to believe that you would be able to at least get the EDI order ready from within serials. You'd be able to add titles. I'll have to wait and see how that all works, how it all ends up working together. That was one question that didn't come up this morning, and I will raise that with a group of people that were on the call so that they know that that is an issue as well. You're welcome. Okay, any other questions about this? This is like a really brief preview. And I know that once I start working with this, I'll probably come up with additional questions that everybody else would come up with too. Before I go on with the agenda, one thing that I need to also tell you is that I don't have a date yet for when 5.20 will be available in our sandboxes. I know that it's getting close. I think that there are some bugs in serials that they want to have working before the software goes into our sandboxes. But that is something that I know is within the next month or so that we will be able to start seeing this in our own sandboxes. Okay, let me move on. I didn't have any enhancement list updates on the ones that were there, but I do have an enhancement that I am adding to the list. And this is based on some of the traffic that I've seen in the support center recently. Those of you who have ebook collections at your library know that loading the records, it's no big problem, but trying to get rid of the records is. So this is something that that started a long time ago when ebook records first started. And I know that we've asked for this a couple of times in the past. This time, however, I think that I finally got their attention on it. I have an open ticket that asks for help in setting up a script for the import-export factory, which is a feature that was purchased by ProConsort, the group that serves Waldo, and has been made visible in LAK. And my thought was if it's visible, it means that we must be able to use it. So my ticket basically said, I need help in setting this up so that I can delete batches of records. And through a couple of different phone calls, I finally was able to steer them in the direction that said that if you have a batch of records that you receive from your vendor and the records coming from the vendor have a D, which stands for delete record, in position 6 of the leader, that the programs that you use for managing the MARC records, when you run the manage stage MARC records, it will delete the records. You don't have to follow up and do anything after that. So that is something that I've asked John to ask for a quote about, and hopefully within a month or two, we'd be able to have that particular feature backported into 5.18, so it would be available for everyone. I do want to keep this tracked on the enhancement list itself so that we have a history of how this was working. I do have one library who is going to work with me and test the script that LibLime wrote for me. And by the time we have our next meeting, I'll be able to report back how it worked and possibly even show you how it works in the Waldo sandbox. So the permanent solution is the one where the managed staged mark record piece is updated within the managed mark record sequence of programs. And the temporary one is the ebook, the import-export factory script. But I am hopeful that this is all going to work just slick and we'll be able to do that. And if you have ebook records that you need to have deleted from your database, let me know and I can work with you and handle that even before we get the permanent addition to the code. Any questions about that? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions on it. The testing script for Code Fusion, I know that there are some pieces, let me rephrase that. I know that some of the libraries have been doing testing, some of the other libraries, South Central, Pioneer, Salina, Kansas, and Click in Colorado, have started doing some testing because in the release notes I've seen bug fixes based on problems that they've reported. So I know that testing is going on. We did not have a meeting this week with the Code Fusion people, due mostly to ALA midwinter, but the next time we meet, we'll get a better idea from the public libraries on how their coding is going. Last week, just for another piece of the testing scripts, last time we met, I talked about the lost handling, the lost item handling, and based on the pieces that I saw in the release notes, I started thinking about those and trying to figure out how it was all working. I did mention to Patrick and Jane that I am concerned about that as well. And they asked me to put together a description of how libraries are using the various lost authorized values that they've set up. So I'm going to get started working on that this afternoon. I was going to try to do it yesterday afternoon too. But what I intend to do is to just check in several of your databases and see what lost statuses you're using, how many records are attached to any one of those statuses at any time. And my particular emphasis is going to be on the statuses that they are going to identify as hard-coded statuses. I definitely don't want anyone to lose the status information on your lost items. So I'm going to get that together. I can send that to the Waldo support mailing list after I get it written and after I send it to Jane, so that you know what my questions were and what my description said. And if I have anything incorrect or incomplete, you can correct me. So watch for that in the next day or two. And if there's anything that you can think of to add to the lost item handling, I would be very interested in having your input. Okay. The discovery layer customization pieces, last time I had put this note in here, but I didn't really show anything about it. I still haven't really dug into that, but I do know that the discovery layer is definitely expanded quite a bit. And I can show that to you here, so you can at least get a preview of what this looks like. Okay, one of the first things that you'll notice is that there is now links to the different areas in the discovery layer. So you'll be able to, if you know you're going to make a CSS change, you can jump down to that immediately. There's also the up arrow so that you can go back up to the top. That in and of itself is a wonderful, wonderful addition to this. And in terms of what was in, yeah, there are a lot of new pieces that are added in here. Let me look at this one more time. Item holdings. Okay, there's a whole bunch about displaying holdings information, our holdings. And in this case, if I turn this on, if I clicked on this box, it would display holdings information within the search results. So you would get item information, you know, the call number, everything that you would see in a normal item display would be compressed a little bit, but it would display as well. There are several different pieces in here that are going to be options that you'll be able to use in the next version. And I think once the documentation is updated, those of you who have customizations in your discovery layer will be able to start looking at what those differences are. And of course, once we get it into the sandboxes, you'll be able to see even more so what the changes are going to be like. Okay, let me ask, are there any other questions on anything that I've shared with you today? Any questions about anything that you've encountered? Okay. Okay, Anne. I will do that. One reminder for everyone, I want to remind you that if you want to find out if you have any records in your database that are marked as delete records, you can do this command record status :D, and this I expect to find none, and I do find none. Oh, I'm sorry, I had the wrong, let me try this way now. Okay, let me, No, there aren't a million. There's only 15. And in this case, this is something that could be actually deleted with the cart if you wanted to delete them. But I know that trying to delete records in the past has been an issue for the libraries that are heavy users of electronic books. So I'll have more information on that next time we meet about the batch delete of electronic ebook records. And as I have on the agenda, our next meeting is February 22nd, 2 weeks from today. If there is nothing else, I will declare this meeting is done for today. Okay, well, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you all.